If only you could have heard the singing that was just going on. It was beautiful.
It was. We're on now?
But
They didn't tell me.
But what if somebody tried to silence that singing? We're going to talk about all that and more on the Self-Evident Podcast.
I just want speech.
Won't trying to blow out my ears. All right, welcome to the Self-Evident Podcast. You got Mike, you got Massey.
Yeah. We're finally like together again.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I mean, we were. Was it last week we were?
I don't even remember.
I don't know.
All of it just blends together, but that's okay.
Hey,
So-
why don't you guys do us a favor and share this podcast with a friend
Yeah,
right now?
we'll hold.
Hit the share stinking button now
We're holding
because
We're
it's
waiting.
Friday.
It
We
is
should-
Friday.
We should do that song. Friday, Friday.
Came
Remember that
to my
stupid
mind,
song?
dude.
That
Friday.
Friday.
Everybody's going like, that's it. Censor
sorry, yeah,
speech.
yeah. Censor speech
songs.
now.
We're done.
now.
Game over. These
So-
guys are crazy.
Yeah, please go ahead and get on to theselfevidenttruth.com. Share this podcast with a friend. And I'm going to start saying it from now on, like my other buddies do who have podcasts. This message will transform people. What we're doing now is going through history, showing you why it's important to have free speech. And we're going to go through it today and what's been happening all over the world, especially in the UK, what's happening now with Governor, wait, let's think Governor Marxist Tim Walz. Dude, he's socialist. I mean, he might as well just come out and say he is. He's not even in the Republic at this point.
Yeah,
My man's cry.
He's crazy. I got nothing more to say than that. He's and did you see that they rolled out like one of their first policy positions besides taking a page out of Trump's book? Did you see that they want price controls?
Price controls.
That's
Socialism.
That's the first real policy position you put forth. Harris didn't even have anything on her website, and now all of a sudden, the first one you come out with is price controls. Even the Washington Post go, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, whoa, what are you doing?
If you want to be communist, don't tell them you're a communist.
Well, okay, so let's kind of go with that for a minute, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's just quickly.
Just a piece.
Do you ever notice that government lately, for the past 100 years or so, has come out with more laws regulating the American people, but not themselves? Why do you think that is? Because these people are socialistic in nature. They're communists. They're Marxists. They don't want you to live in freedom. They hate it. That's why they want you under the WHO. Now the WHO comes out with some stupid monkeypox, declaration.
2.0.
Yeah, the whole thing. They don't care about your liberty. They don't care about your freedom. And it's funny because the Bill of Rights was written, which we're going to get into today, was written to tell government you cannot infringe on these. But literally every election cycle, it's how are we going to do for you, which means we got to give up more sovereignty, which means that the people lose freedom, which means government has more power.
Right.
In a Marxist nation, that's exactly what happens.
And that I think that's what scares me probably most about this whole Harris Walz ticket is they are literally communists. And you can say, no, they're not. Let's look at this. They installed a candidate that nobody wants. Now, they're going to tell you, everybody wants her now. That's funny because she didn't get a single vote in the primaries, but now all of a sudden she is the darling child. She was installed by the party. Her running mate is a flat-out socialist, aka communist. No bones about it. And the first policy position they come up with is price controls. As though that would somehow fix the economy that supposedly she hasn't ruined with the Biden administration. Go figure. Huh. No, we'll fix it. We're going to fix it day one. You're in office.
Unbelievable.
So this and something that we put into the map, and I'll go ahead and bring it up right now. the Supreme Court. So we're going to go to slide 6. Let's go ahead and throw this up right away. We'll do this, and then we'll go back to the other stuff going around the country. I think this is a good segue. The Supreme Court, if you didn't notice, basically said, yeah, you know, the White House can keep pushing on social media to censor posts and remove posts. That's fine. And your darling Amy Coney Barrett really kind of gave a endorsement of this idea of like, yeah, no, because guess what? It was a technicality. Just like all the election stuff with the Supreme, with all the courts, technicalities, right? Her opinion said, to establish standing, the plaintiffs must demonstrate a substantial risk that in the near future they will suffer an injury that is traceable to a government defendant and redressable by the injunction they seek. Because no plaintiff has carried that burden, none has standing to seek a preliminary injunction. Wait a second. So what you're saying is, I have to prove before it happens that the government is going to censor my post, and then it's going to injure me irreparably. Well, in that case, they can do whatever they want. And then I come back around, and guess what you're going to tell me? Oh, well, they weren't going against the First Amendment. They were just saying, well, you know, maybe the social media platforms should remove it if they feel like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like, I don't know what you have on that whole thing,
No,
but it really drives me nuts that that's where they went.
I do think, you know, was there anything in her opinion that basically said, look, this is infringing, even though there might be a technicality, this is a gross infringement on the First Amendment. And there's none of that stuff that you're really seeing.
No.
And that's what makes it scary. Dude, I remember when we first came out against Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett, were these guys really conservative? And it was like, no, because Trump picked them. And
they're fine. They're conservatives.
Yeah.
They're Catholic.
Yeah.
They're good.
Even when they said that the abortion rights belong to the states, no, they don't. They don't at all. So it's like, dude, are they really conservative or are they just modern conservatives? Modern conservatives.
Punt.
That's right, which means they were yesterday's Democrats, right? So, yeah I mean, listen, free speech is a big... I want to say it this way. Why was freedom and religion the first things written to be protected? Why?
Right.
There's something to be said because religion, right, is an important thing to be protected. Believe what you want to believe, which means you're going to speak what you want to speak. You can't have freedom of religion without freedom of speech.
Right.
You can't believe anything you want if you can't be free to speak about it.
Right.
So then freedom of conscience is not taken away.
And that's really what it gets down to, because I where did I put it? I put it in the notes of this layout. And of course, there it is. So I want you to think about this, because this is going to justify what Massey was just saying. So notice this line of thought. Religion, that equals your conviction, right? That's your heart's belief system. That's where you reside deepest, of like, this is what I feel, this is my conviction, this is who I am. Speech is talking about that conviction. And so when people say, oh, that's misinformation or that's hate speech, which we'll get to in a second.
Right.
All of a sudden, we're determining that your conviction is wrong, so therefore we can suppress it.
Right.
So if you follow the First Amendment down, it actually follows a progression. It goes from religion, which is your conviction, speech, which is your outward presentation of that conviction, press, which is persuading or influencing others about your conviction, right? You're not just talking out into the air. Now you're promoting your idea, your conviction. Peaceably assemble. That means meeting with others to agree about your conviction. All of you have an agreed upon conviction. You're allowed to go and meet with others and promote that conviction, and then petition government. In other words, the government must deal with your conviction. This is very important because people think, oh, these are just random things that they put together in some way, shape, or... No, it's talking about the whole process. If you remove one part of it, let's say speech, that then limits your ability to connect with others, to promote it, to petition the government for redress, right? So if you take away speech, like you're saying, well, now it becomes freedom of worship. That's a whole different ballgame. Oh, you can worship in your heart. Just don't talk about it.
Right, right. And that's actually a big misnomer. A lot of people have used it now, including Democratic politicians. They say, you guys already have the freedom to worship. No, 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 no. I have the freedom to the free exercise of my religion. Well, I'm an evangelical, and I don't care what you think about that. I'm going to go out and promote the gospel of Jesus Christ to everybody who will hear. When you do that, it actually promotes freedom in the spirit. So when the freedom in the spirit, I'm now free, set free from the law of sin and death, like Paul said in Romans, right? I've been now set free from the law of sin and death, which means then if government becomes oppressive to the things I'm set free from and for, and they promote vices and evil that I've been set free from, my duty as a Christian is to expose wickedness. As a matter of fact, we have this shirt, not because I'm doing a plug, but I want you to see it. It says Free the Speech. We're actually going to call it the show today, Free the Speech. You can't really see. There it is. God dog it. There you go. Free the speech, right? But then the back, I just want you to see it's Ephesians 5, right? Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. My duty as a Christian, not just as a patriot, but as a Christian, is to expose wickedness. Well, shoot, if we see it in government, and I think it's so hilarious that the government, and I'm getting hot about this for obvious reasons. Why is it government is willing to silence your speech and your misinformation, but not theirs? How come they can go make treaties with every other country we may not even agree with, or getting alliances with the WHO and all this other stuff,
right?
And they're not being held accountable? Why is it that they can spend money recklessly and they're not held accountable? Who's holding them accountable? Why is it they can put out misinformation about COVID and they're not held accountable?
And then when we try to say something or hold them accountable, no, we've got to crush that.
This is how they've brainwashed a lot of people. They've now come out and basically said, listen, misinformation should be done away with. Don't we all agree? We just want people to get misinformed. You know what I mean? So we need to do something about that, right? And then all of a sudden, the whole time I'm thinking, yeah, well, who's going to determine what misinformation is?
Right.
Oh, you guys.
You get to be the arbiters of truth.
Right.
Because that works out well.
It's exactly right. When universal truth, according to the founders, was accepted by common law. Common law comes from the 10 Commandments. If you look at any history writings, you look at William Blackstone, John Locke, Montesquieu, all these guys talked about common law as a reference point. Common law referring to the 10 Commandments. As a matter of fact, the laws of nature, nature's God. Samuel Adams talked about it in a court case in 1841, I believe it was. I think it was 1841. It might have been 1841. It might have been sooner than that. But he said basically that the laws of God and the laws of common nature, or laws of nature, are to be as one. He said that in a court case. They're referred to as the same thing. The reason why they separated the two is because the laws of nature were for people who don't understand. They don't believe in the gospel. They don't believe in Judaism. But they know that there's some kind of law that's a universal common thing. We don't kill, we don't steal, we don't lie, we don't do these things.
It's written on their hearts.
It's written on their hearts. It's a conscience issue, right? So we see things in nature. They talked about this just like Romans 1 talked about it. So when we're talking about freedom of speech here, there's a whole mess of stuff to cover. And we're going to cover, he's got some really cool clips about what happens when you don't protect free speech.
Right.
And why this is so important. Now, there's many notes that I want to cover here with you because there's so much. I really want to talk about this walls thing, this misinformation thing.
Let's do it.
Let's get into this sucker. Now, before I get into that, because it's not a plug, this is actually true. We are in the process of a real big transition. If you've not seen that video, I made an announcement last week about we're transitioning from doing full-time church work stuff where Mike and Carrie have been doing full-time self-evident. I just go out and preach full-time. I was actually working full-time at the church. Now I'm transitioning into full-time being self-evident as the CEO, as the leader. We're pushing forward with the ministry. We have a goal this month of $30,000. We've had some people already respond to that and stuff like that, but we would love for you guys to be a part of that. If you can go to theselfevidenttruth.com, you guys can go to theselfevidenttruth.com and actually go on there, donate. You guys can become a monthly sponsor. We had a couple monthly sponsors sign up because of it. And if you guys want to push yourselves, business owners, we would love for you guys to participate in this with a matching grant. If you guys want to donate a certain amount, and if it's matched, you guys donate, please reach out to us for that. We would love to have that happen because we want to make this thing happen. So thank you so much for all of you who've given so far. Thank you because you guys are awesome and you keep us going.
And if you are a monthly torchbearer and you want to raise your monthly, we will count that towards the drive as well.
Amen.
Right? So,
oh, yes.
So, and by all means, become a torchbearer, guys. Help support. And the exciting part is when we've got Massey here full time, he and I can do some really cool stuff for our torchbearers. So
that's going to be fun.
Keep that in mind.
And you want to, because when we're going to eventually move into call-in style as well.
Yep.
So people can call in to the show. We want to incorporate all that, especially for you torchbearers who have real questions.
phones
Matter of
ready.
fact, there's a really cool Kyle McKittrick. He's actually teaching history. If you can pull that quote up, can you see that the message?
He's got it.
He says, "Happy Friday, fellas! Teaching a high school government class, starting today at the homeschool co-op that I've been implementing God versus government into the curriculum." Thank you so much, Kyle. I love that guy. When we met him, him and another pastor, just great people, man, and they're kicking butt and using the curriculums.
Right. And
That's just testimony right there. They're using curriculums that we produce. That's great.
And we've had people bring their neighbors, their Bible studies through it.
Yeah.
We've had people bring it into their co-op. So by all means, you can go to the website and check out the curriculum as well. Massey and I teach it. We do videos. We try to make it us. And you get lifetime access to it. As many times as you want, printable PDFs. You can print those out as many times as you want.
And why is it
By all means, go
why
for
is it you YouTube people rarely ever comment? There's people watching right now. Comment on the Duggum thing.
Come
Anyways,
on.
let's get into Governor.
All right.
Let's get into what dictator wants.
We are merely telling you cannot talk.
In the state of mini Soviet, we are here to tell you that you cannot have free speech because we deem it unnecessary.
Let's roll the clip.
Let's roll the clip.
Check the audio, though. Be careful, because it'll blow our ears out if you don't slide the slider down.
I think we need to push back on
No.
free speech, on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our
No, there's no guarantee to free speech
No.
around our democracy, which we're a republic. There's no guarantee to free speech. He forgot the First Amendment. There's no guarantee for any of this stuff. Are you kidding?
No, if we determine it was hate speech or misinformation, it shall not be covered under the First Amendment.
No. We are here for your safety and protection, and we will determine what kind of information you have. I literally sound like a gay.
I mean, they were well
Nazi.
dressed.
I'm like Gru
the
as a
leather
government
boots.
official.
Yeah, it's kind of questions.
Grew as a really grew. That's the one you picked. Huh?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, not to make light of what's happening, guys. We're not trying to. We're not trying to make
Sometimes all you
light.
can do is laugh.
But this is crazy because government has, even with this clip, it's showing you where the Democrat side is going. They want full-blown socialism.
Yes.
Socialism, eventually it's communism, which is what Stalin said. It turns into communism. All of the precepts lie in the fact that government can't trust the people. When
Right.
Thomas Jefferson, our founders, literally said it's people can't trust government. We should be the ones first to comment on anyone who's got any kind of authority. I don't care who it is. It's not dishonorable to question and make sure that they're doing their job right. Like, look, dude, I worked at a church for 5-6 years now, right? Pastor Todd is someone I deeply honor and admire. That man has been there for me in more ways than I can count. You've testified to this.
Yep.
The elders, all of them, right? But even in my heart, I'm like, man, I'm here to watch his back. Am I doing everything? Is he doing? I pray for him. All these other things. It's not that I question where he goes. It's just making sure everything's on the up and up because he's a man. And I'm not a faithful brother, or the elders aren't faithful brothers to him if they can't hold him accountable if he makes a wrong decision. It's not that we're looking for him to make a wrong decision. It's us being vigilant enough to see, man, are we doing okay? Thank God, man, because he submits so well and he's good with the elders and stuff. And dude, he's done nothing that I could say has been crazy or stupid, right? He hasn't done that stuff. But I was in a cult for 12 years, and I was not a faithful brother to say, this is bull crap. What are we doing right now, right? That's on me. I'm the one who was supposed to hold the standard of God, and I didn't do it, right? So let's go to government for a minute. A government with its own constitution telling them the parameters of government, what they can and cannot. That's it. That's all. This is all the authority you have. That's all you can do. The American people are just supposed to like not hold them accountable to the oath that they took.
And just believe that they will self-regulate. That's akin.
Unbelievable.
That's akin to you telling your child, "Don't eat a cookie." Okay, I'm gonna just trust you, and you know you'll self-regulate. No, it's my job to make sure you follow the rule, right? So if my kid eats the cookie when I told him not to, I have to come back and say, "You're not following the agreement." And now you have to be disciplined. Is the same thing with government. We have it stuck in our head that these people are all knowing. They're all wise. Everything they're doing is for us because we have this idol worship of elites and people in power and authority.
Seriously.
And flat
Seriously.
out, it is your neighbor who got up one day and said, I'm going to run for office. I think I could be mayor. And you look at him and you go, dude, you have a burned out Chevy in your backyard for the past 5 years. Your house is falling apart. Your wife has left you, but you want to tell me how to do my stuff.
That's exactly right. And you can't even do you. And that's where this gets really sticky. And actually not sticky. This is where it gets hypocritical. They're telling us how to live when they don't even themselves know how to live.
They're
we
insane.
know, all people know. I don't care if you're on a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian. Every one of you knows there's corruption in government. Every one of you. Do you know how I know that? Because when the Republican gets in office, the Dems say there's corruption. Right? Right? So when the Dems gets in there, the Republicans go, there's corruption.
It's
and the
them.
Libertarians are like, we've been telling you idiots there's been corruption for years, you dummies. That's what people are, right? We're just corrupt individuals. And then the Christian comes along and says, yeah, that's why we need to hold them accountable because there's corruption in people because of Jeremiah 17:9, right? The heart's deceitful, right? So there's all these viewpoints. We all know there's corruption. Why is government telling you it's wrong to call out their corruption?
Dun, dun, dun.
Why?
Isn't that funny?
Oh, but they can tell you they can tell you better get inside and wear your mask. Did you see these videos going on in Minneapolis? I just saw a couple.
No.
There was people that were outside and there was tanks rolling through the streets and people shooting. They were shooting like paintball at people. They wouldn't go inside their houses because they were filming it. They were like, "Get inside your house!" And they were shooting at them. The troops. I'm like, because there's nothing Russian about that.
No.
There's nothing
As they're
tyrannical about that.
As they're firing up the welder and welding people into their homes.
Right. Because, January 6th was, an insurrection.
The worst
and
day of all time.
I can't believe all those people.
Man.
We went in there.
Grandma followed the rope boundaries and walked through insurrection,
right?
Yeah.
But you can't hold them accountable. This is where this is going. So let's talk about misinformation. What's the history of free speech, right?
Yeah. Well, right before we get to that, I want to run through a couple of these because I want to show you guys.
Oh, yes.
I want to show you guys what happens around the world, especially in a little country.
Let us show you what kind of country you can have when you don't have free speech. It'd be beautiful. Roll the clip. Now.
I just imagine this like, welcome. We are going to show you what you can expect here at Happy Days America. We are here for your comfort and safety.
Come on, YouTube people. Comment or laugh or something. Do you guys got questions? Yeah, dude, we got people on here too.
Slides. Yeah. So we're going to slide number 1. UK man. No, not Florida man. UK man. Florida man
Was that
does crazy
evolution?
stuff.
Peking man.
Yeah, exactly. Florida man does crazy stuff. UK man does nothing and government gets crazy. So Wayne O'Rourke was arrested for posting on social media anti-Muslim and anti-establishment rhetoric. I have that in quotes because that was in quotes.
Anti-Muslim and anti-establishment, not questions about what they're doing. It's anti. Oh my gosh, misinformation.
You have
Isn't that
questioned the establishment. He
Isn't that
had
something?
100,000 followers on X, and he even pretty much predicted his own arrest. He was charged with publishing written material online to stir up racial hatred. And what scares me is that people in the U.S. go, yeah, but that's the UK. That's fine. That's over there. That's not going to happen here. Let's go to slide number 2. Also in the UK, a 61-year-old man received 18 months.
Unbelievable.
A year and a half for chanting, who the is Allah.
Who the is Allah?
Mind you, it's not censored on the screen.
It's
but
not. We guys will just post it. Yeah.
Yeah. And telling police officers, you're not English anymore, which, I mean, is dude wrong?
No.
During a protest. So this was a protest. There was a police line. He was yelling stuff at the police line. For doing that, this guy received a year and a half. I want you to think about that. Think about you were at a protest. Maybe you had 1 or 2 pints and you're yelling a couple of things at the. We gotta imagine he was.
Yeah,
right?
he was
like
a few, not just a few sheets. He was a few Bed Bath and Beyond stores away from full of sheets.
So he's yelling stuff at the cops, and they turn around and give him a year and a half for that. Let's go for slide number 3. This is more global. So remember that boxer we talked about a while ago, Emain Khalif? It is now threatening lawsuits against people like Elon Musk and J.K. Rowling. Why? Because they engaged in acts of aggravated cyber harassment. Now, if this moves forward,
My
this
God.
means France would try to extradite or issue warrants for people who are not French citizens. If the French courts go through with this, now all of a sudden it becomes global warfare. Wrong slide. So slide number 4, this is in Germany. C.J. Hopkins, author and satirist, has been fighting the German government over his criticism of the authoritarian state style of the German government with a couple of tweets. Mind you, had a book with a really faint swastika in it talking about the authority of the German government and how they're crushing people. And now they're crushing him. Wah, wah.
Which would be really cool to if he does respond.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah,
that'd be sweet.
CJ, if you're paying attention, come on out, bro.
Come on out, buddy. We want to interview you because we want
We
clicks.
will ask the questions.
Yeah, we're selfish. We just want clicks and views and
Yeah,
sound
that's
bites.
really all it is.
It's what it's for.
So, yeah, let's get into the history of this. Let's go for the history.
Yeah, let's go to the history of it because this is actually a big thing for me personally. I always thought, still do, revere John Adams as, gosh, man, Jefferson called him the Colossus of Independence. I mean, without his kind of prophetic bent in his life, like that stalwart type of speech, we wouldn't have a nation that we have. So I'm not at all speaking against John Adams. I will say I speak against human nature because let's just get into this. Government has always fought for freedom, freedom of speech in some way, shape, or form. Kings have done it. As a matter of fact, we talked about it earlier today. We'll get into it later. But governments, even in Jesus' time, tried to silence speech against the kings.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that in a minute. As early as 1798, only 9 years after the Bill of Rights was signed.
It's not even a decade.
Bro, this is, and I do a whole slideshow on Christianity. We're all like, God, yes, God, independence, freedom, 1776. Dude, early 1800s, we're like less than 10% of the people actually went to attend a church.
Right.
It's like just craziness, like how we can just do this, right?
So fickle.
I can't wait. I want Alex McFarland on the show here very soon. We were talking about, we're going to North Carolina here very soon, and he said Asheville was like a hub of revival. And now it's like this liberal hellhole, literally. I mean, it's just like a crazy
mess.
Am I going to get in trouble for calling it a hellhole? No,
Yep.
because that's where, anyway. So, as early as 1798, the Alien and Sedition Act was signed by President Adams. And I've talked about this many times, Adams being one of my favorite founders. But this was unbelievable. Dude, the guy literally fought against a country that tried to silence him, a country that called him a dissenter, a country that basically put bounties on their heads for coming against the king. So then this guy thought it was a good idea. John Adams was like, wait a second, we're a baby nation here. And France is kind of trying to tell us to go to war right now. And then he signed the Treaty of Tripoli, like,
Right.
and all this other stuff, right? And oh my gosh, there's too much dissension going on. So we're going to make it illegal for people to speak against us because we can't get into a conflict. Now, they couldn't get into the French conflict. And here's a reason. One, we didn't have the money for it. We're a fresh nation. We're a baby country. Washington said the same thing. We can't get involved in these conflicts. Well, anti-government's sentiment, because we sparked a revolution, now the people are like, well, shoot, if we're here at this point in this juncture, we better talk about it. And they're already seeing government kind of start go crossways. So John Adams said, yeah, I think that's a good idea to pass the Alien and Sedition Act.
You know what would solve this problem of people complaining? Just give them more to complain about. That sounds good.
Hey, Katie, Alex, great friend, just was on the phone with him yesterday, so I'm going to be on his show, and he's going to be on ours too, so we'll get him on here very soon. We're just picking topics because that guy, if I tell him about one topic, he'll go on 50.
Yeah.
That dude is freaking genius. So anyways, the Sedition Act, July 14th, banned the publishing of false or malicious writings against the government and inciting opposition to any act of Congress or the president, and practices already forbidden in some cases state liable statutes and common law, but not by federal law. So basically, anybody that speaks against the government, anybody that speaks against Congress, the president, at all, you're held liable.
Don't you love that? Malicious writings against the government and the inciting of opposition to any act of Congress or the president. Could you imagine the blanket statement that is for the government to look at you and go, well, you're opposing what we just put into place.
So, slide 7. Let's get into slide 7. Old Adams, this is what he said. It is impossible to conceal ourselves or the world, conceal from ourselves or the world what has been before observed, that endeavors have been employed to foster and establish a division between the government and the people of the United States. Listen to this. This is like a mixture of Obama, Biden, Kamala, and the whole thing. Look, it's for your good that we're doing this. And again, John Adams is one of my favorites, and he just did.
You should be very afraid when the government comes to you and says, we're doing it for your good.
So then he says, to investigate the causes which have encouraged this attempt is not necessary, but to repel by decided and united counsels insinuations so derogatory to the honor and aggression so dangerous to the Constitution, Union, and even independence of the nation is an indispensable duty. Dude, that's exactly how they talk today. They're coming against our democracy. We've got to stop this kind of speech.
Say that again. Expand on that, because that's a connection people have to in real time make. It's the same thing.
Same argument.
Democracy.
It's going to hurt us in the long run if people talk about how bad our government is, even though we're really terrible. But man, oh my gosh, they can't speak against it because it's going to create disunity. And it's going to create dissension.
This will destroy American democracy if we allow people to question vaccines.
I wish we got the first Incredibles movie. They're penetrating the bureaucracy. I wish we got that clip.
I think we need that one because that would go a long way for what
seriously.
we do.
So then it says the government archives report the Sedition Act trials, along with Senate's use of its contempt powers to suppress dissent, set off a firestorm of criticism against the Federalists and contributed to the defeat of their election in 1800. Because that act, the Alien Sedition Act, ended up expiring in 4 years, which those are supposed to do. Executive orders are supposed to expire in 4 years for that term. So that's where the original executive orders came. Again, he violated this whole thing by even blanketing the American people into it. Jefferson was against it. Madison was against it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read something here that I did some homework on because Mike does all the homework, but I was kind of like writing my own little thing here. And I want you guys to see this. Thomas Jefferson and Madison condemned the act as unconstitutional. The Adams administration used it to prosecute its political opponents. The Supreme Court never ruled the Sedition Act unconstitutional. Now, later on in courts, after they go back in history, like, yeah, that was pretty unconstitutional. They're like 50 years down the road. Yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that.
Hey, yeah, that was a bad idea.
And that's exactly how nations work. You know, that was really bad back then. Germany. You know, that was really bad back then. We probably shouldn't do that again. But then we concealed the processes of how that even happened. So now we're doing it again. We're concealing the processes of how that happened and the effect of it. So when Jefferson got into office, he was like, bro. As a matter of fact, he was Adams' vice president. Flat out was telling the guy, dude, what are you doing? We fought a revolution over this. This basic principle of freedom of speech, we fought an entire revolution for. What are you doing? Adams was like, but we must quell the sedition to keep the union intact, and we can't let this union's not about you.
And do you see how fear drives oppression? Because he was afraid that it would fall apart. Well, I gotta grab tighter hold of it, and that'll fix it. That'll save it. Fear will get you into really bad places really fast. And let's put it this way, and I don't think people think about this. Do you realize that censorship of speech killed Jesus? No, it didn't. Hold on. What was Christ accused of? Blasphemy. He was accused of claiming to be the Son of God. He was accused of claiming to be the King of the Jews. He was accused of claiming to tear down the temple. Mind you, that was the one that they really tried to get him on.
They got him. Yeah, they tried to get him on, yeah.
And the Jews were petitioning Pilate saying, this guy's claiming to be king. Caesar is our king. He's trying to foment a revolution. Censorship of speech killed Jesus.
Yeah. So go here for a minute. Knowing the history that the founders knew, right? Madison proposed some different ideas about the First Amendment. I'm going to read his original, and then we'll go back into this, okay? He said the people, this was his original draft of the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment of what he wanted about free speech. And there was a couple iterations where we got to today. They actually ended up lumping 5 different rights into one Bill of Rights, right? The first one. So there was 5 different drafts of the religion one and different things like that. So there were different proposals, redress of our government for our grievances, that kind of stuff. But this was his original. I want you to hear this. It's not that they took it out or didn't use it because it wasn't good enough. It was because they needed to shorten it and kind of make it make sense and be concise. He said, the people shall not be deprived or abridged of their right to speak, to write, or to publish their sentiments. He said, and the freedom of the press is one of the great bulwarks of liberty, shall be inviolable. He's telling the government, this is what they wrote, this whole First Amendment, if we can just bring it into context, Congress shall make no law. Done. That's it. Those words hold weight. Governor Walz, all these guys that are trying to silence free speech, Congress shall make no law. It means 2 things. 1, Congress is the only one that can make law, not your stupid executive orders and your abuse of power and your petty tyranny that you try to perform here, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is Congress can't touch it. Can't even think about it, can't make laws trying to surround it, can't try to do anything. If a person's speech can cause someone to stumble and fall, to do something stupid, like hurt my feelings, if it can cause you to murder somebody, it is not the person's speech that is wrong. It is your weak, tired conscience that is wrong.
That's a good way to put it.
You are spiritually deprived and you're physically, mentally wrong and off base because of it. You're weak. And it's got to be a miserable existence that someone else's words can cause you to murder somebody. I'm not saying words don't have weight and counsel, but even the Bible justifies free speech, and we're going to get into that in a minute, okay? But the fact that we can say that your speech can make someone commit murder. Trump's speech is what created January 6th. All that stuff it's bullcrap. President Trump could say, he actually said it. Someone could shoot someone in the middle of New York and they'd still vote for me. Does that mean someone should go shoot someone in the middle of New York street? No. No. That's not what he was saying.
Right.
So if someone's speech can cause someone to try to assassinate him, it's not Trump that's at fault here. It's the dude who's got the weak conscience. And that's what I'm trying to say. Speech has nothing to do with people's actions. You can't prosecute speech. You can only prosecute action. And now government has become the arbiter of your conscience. That's what they're trying to do now. So if you think it, if you say it, that means that means that you can be prosecutable. No, the only thing you can arrest is my actions.
And here's what happens, and people don't think about it this way, and this is why they do
if
this.
They're violating.
If I can control your speech and silence you, you are actually in a state of tension. You're in a state of contradiction because you believe something, but you're not allowed to say it, so you're not speaking it. So you're holding it in. When people come to this point of contradiction, it's unsettling for them. So what happens for a lot of people is they end up shifting their own beliefs within their heart.
Right.
It's like, well, I never say it. I may feel that way, but I'm told I should. And they walk through this long process of, it doesn't really matter that much. It's fine. And you may say, no, that's not. I'm telling you, a silent group of people will eventually submit and succumb to what the prevailing thought is.
Right.
So if they can stop you from saying it, not only do you stop people sharing the idea, but then you stop people believing in the idea long enough. Now, you'll always get those revolutionary types, right? But you have to silence them.
Right.
Because otherwise they might spark some revolution in other people.
You know, so dumb. This is the hypocrisy of government, folks. Government tells parents, you can't silence your kids. You can't stop your kids from gender transition. You can't stop your kids from getting an abortion. You can't stop, right? That's what they're trying to tell you.
If you don't gender affirm.
but they can stop your speech.
Yeah.
They can stop your worship in churches. Do you not see what's happening? Do you not see this? And them puppets up there are mere men. Mere men.
Have you seen
Have you seen Chuck Schumer lately?
Oh my gosh, dude.
Man can't even walk.
I have things I could say.
But I'm saying, like, listen,
right.
just listen to what's happening here.
These are fallible people.
Yeah, they're not only fallible.
Well, most of them are wicked.
They're people, just like you. They have no authority over you.
Have you seen that video? It's from the UK a couple of years ago. A woman was standing on the other side of the road outside of an abortion clinic. She was praying silently, and she got arrested. She was standing there praying silently, and she got arrested. And she told the cop, she was like, I'm praying silently. I'm not even praying out loud. Yeah, you still can't do that. Your conscience, they will try to...
Unbelievable.
They will try to control your conscience. It's not just about you speaking. It is them trying to change your conscience and what you submit to.
That's right.
And we've had it here in the U.S. We had, obviously, the Alien and Sedition Act. Did you know around 1917 there was the Espionage Act? This criminalized any act that could impede recruitment of soldiers or incite a rebellion. This also gave the Postmaster General the ability to censor communication that advocated resistance to U.S. laws. Now, there was this leader, socialist guy, labor leader, socialist guy, Eugene Debs. Now, we can say, hey, I don't agree with socialism. Did you know he was given 10 years for giving an anti-war speech?
Gosh.
Just put yourself in that position. I mean, we've got people sitting and rotting in jail because they were physically present at an event. This guy was given 10 years. Now, his sentence got commuted a couple of years after that, but still, the sentence handed down from the judge was 10 years. I watched a video from the UK of a judge handing somebody, it was like 16, 18 months for something they wrote online. And his whole comment was basically, this is awful and egregious. How dare you?
Unbelievable.
You've just destroyed somebody's life because they wrote something online.
Right. Isn't it funny, too? Churches became incorporated 501c3s. I think it was after 1958 or 56. They required nonprofits. Well, and you could still be a church without the 501c3. It's a whole different topic. But what's the only restriction that they gave churches? You can't publicly endorse.
Yep.
You can't get involved in government affairs.
You're not allowed to make a statement of conviction in terms of government affairs.
Ain't that something?
Interesting.
Not like, hey, if you do this, you can't force people to come and give you money. You can't force. It's don't speak about government.
Yeah.
Notice. Ain't that something?
Don't try to influence who rules over you.
Everything revolves around government. And the reason why I was like, because I'm reading this these notes you made, page 2, the Declaration of Independence takeaways.
Yeah.
This is very, very important. Obstruction of public dissent. The grievances accuse the British government of obstructing public dissent and criticism of its policies. If you read the 27 reasons why we left Britain, it's literally saying the government shut us out. They wouldn't even hear us anymore. We tried olive branch petitions, and they were like, yeah, no, we're going to kill you.
Right.
We're going to put bounties on your heads. So they sent Hessian mercenaries to come after our founders, to come after Americans that dissented against the British government, right? This suggests that the curtailment of the colonists' ability to freely express their opinions and concerns, the right to voice dissenting viewpoints and criticize the government, is a fundamental aspect of the freedom of speech. The purpose was to make sure government was able to do what it's supposed to do. To petition the government was that's what we're doing. Petition doesn't always mean asking. It's to petition them to say you're wrong, to write an olive branch saying, what are you doing? That's the petition. The petition is calling onto the promises of God. When I make a petition, Father, your word says. That's just calling on the promises of God. That's what a petition is.
That's good.
Censorship of suppression. Number 2, the grievances implied that the British Crown hindered the colonists' ability to express themselves by employing censorship and suppressing publications. One of the ways they did it was naming the Black Robe Regiment the Black Robe Regiment. Don't listen to them preachers in the black robes over there. They're the ones suppressing us. They're brainwashing you.
Isn't it funny that the government has opinions about issues going on in society? Now, go with me here.
I'm going.
Let's look at COVID. It is proven that the government was having email trains with social media platforms about misinformation, especially related to COVID.
Right.
Why does the government have an opinion about what you do or do not do
That's
in your
good.
medical history? Why would the government decide that they have to have an opinion about your beliefs
That's good,
about
dude.
medicine
That's good.
unless they have a mission?
Mm-hmm.
Government should not care about your opinion. Government should only be concerned about your actions that break God's law, nature's law.
And violate the rights of another. Yes,
Exactly.
that's exactly right. They shouldn't care about your opinion. They should only be able to make sure that you can voice that opinion, even though you might be stupid and wrong. Even though you may be right and righteous, you are free to express your opinion, unless you unless you violate someone's rights. In other words,
Right.
you go out there and physically harm somebody, which is prosecutable by law. So let's continue here. I'm going to talk about what, like you put on here. Where does it go from here? We talked about, the Chelsea Manning and all that stuff, the Red Scare, the Jim Crow era, university suppression, vaccine misinformation. I'm sorry, misinformation, because we don't want to get censored. I mean, we don't want YouTube to be a government entity or anything.
Which now the government's coming back on YouTube and Google and trying to break them up.
We don't want Google to be in part of the government or anything.
Yeah. Hey, Google.
Mike,
Google, be careful who you get in bed with. They might just break you up.
yeah, it's so crazy. Just look at Germany. The people that Hitler used to kill and arrest other people, he ended up killing anyway.
Yeah.
So dumb. So
Stalin's
dumb.
inner circle strangely got smaller and smaller over the years.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Don't know what
here,
was going on with
you
that.
put on here, we talked about even book banning, all that stuff. That happened early in conquesting to get rid of people's history. The point was to get rid of people's history so they could be reformed into a new society, which is not what... Anyways, so where do we go from here? It's quite a launching pad to start from, but I'm just going to tell you what I think of free speech, and I want you to do your notes because I think the notes are great. If you cannot persuade me with an argument, right? Just like the gospel. Paul said, therefore, knowing the terror of the Lord, we persuade men to the gospel, right? We know the terror of the Lord. We know what's coming, judgment. We persuade men. John Locke said, it is one thing to persuade and another to command. One thing is to press with arguments, another to press with penalties. For laws are of no force at all without penalties. And penalties in this case are absolutely impertinent because they are not proper to convince the mind. In other words, you can't force someone to have a mind change. You can force them to act on the mind change you want them to, but in their hearts, they will never conform to it. So what happens is, why not try to persuade me instead of try to make me? Anybody that knows anybody, if you try to force someone to believe in the gospel, you'd be considered, what would be a blasphemer? You'd be considered legalistic, religious, right? So there would be all manner of form against us, or evil spoken about us. That's why we only can persuade. We can only talk to you and present the gospel and let the Holy Spirit work on you. That's the point. But notice how government does. If you can't persuade me and you need force, your argument is weak, and you're a weak man for trying to force me, or a weak woman to try to force me to believe what you believe. If you have to force me to do it, you're weak, and I ain't submitting to you.
You've proven you cannot win the argument.
I'm not going to submit to you at all.
Right.
And I think we all have to make this one of the things you have to make a pact within your heart to say, I'm not submitting to government in this. I'm not doing it.
Amen.
I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to stop speaking. You got to be like Peter when he said, I ought to obey God rather than man. I mean, they had that going on. I don't care what they say. I don't care if they tell me to close my church doors. We're going to meet here. We're going to do this. That's what we're doing. You've got to make a pact within your heart and say, Lord, my life is not my own. I'm bought with a price now. You told me and commanded me to go preach the gospel. You commanded me to do such. And when the government says you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or we're going to arrest you if you do, arrest me then.
Right.
I'm gonna go preach the gospel in the jails then, if that's what I got to do. And some will say, "Oh, you're kind of prophesying this, and oh my gosh, you're gonna get tried by it, dude." Okay, then that's what has to happen. I think back to the time in history when people were arrested, like John Bunyan, who wrote Pilgrim's Progress, arrested for not having a preaching license. I think he was in jail for like 12 years. I think it was. Ended up writing Pilgrim's Progress and all these other things.
A license.
A license to preach. A license to preach. Unbelievable.
Dude.
Me as a minister has to pay taxes on money that people give to me to go preach the gospel. How stupid is that?
Right.
Talk about oppression. Talk about oppression, dude.
And that's where, why does oppression work? Because people are afraid of the oppression, right? I just want to get by. I just want a quiet life. And I think especially in this whole thing, I think as we're looking at this election, I think free speech is really important to make it about free speech as well. And to make the argument about what will they do to silence you if Harris gets into office. And people think, well, I don't know, free speech, that's a losing issue. You have to fight that issue. You have to fight on that mountain. Because if you let speech go, look at the UK. The UK is a perfect example of they're going to try and hunt down people that are outside their nation to control their speech. They're arresting people for praying in their head. They're arresting people for writing something online. If you don't stand now and you start barking loudly about this, it will come to that. And you can't hide behind a document that they don't care about. You have to defend that document. You've got to step up on that document. And you've got to say, no, we are going to uphold this. You're supposed to uphold from this. You know, and I do want to read. So Jonathan Turley, he's also suggested something very interesting. I want you to think about this. Just would this make sense to you? He said, in my new book, I suggest various measures that can regain the ground that we have lost on free speech. One such measure is a federal law that would ban any federal funding of any offices or programs, government, academic, or corporate, that rate, target, censor, throttle, or seek to take adverse action against individuals or groups based on their viewpoints in public forums or social media. There can be easy exceptions to this ban for individuals or groups engaging in criminal conduct or unlawful foreign interference with elections. Threatening individuals or trafficking in child constitutes conduct, not speech. They are criminal acts under the federal code. Nothing in this law would prevent the government from speaking in its own voice. Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas wants to challenge claims made about him or his agency. He can do so on the agency website or make his case to the media. That is the essence of free speech. What he cannot do is create a disinformation governance board to regulate the speech of citizens or groups.
Preach.
And I agree. I think if the DHS comes out and creates a board to go after people's speech, defunded. This gets into even what is a regulation, what is an ordinance, what is a law. Those are things which, if you step against them, the government says they have the right to discipline you, to punish you, because you've broken that law, regulation, or ordinance. Guess what? Congress is the one who's supposed to write law. Congress is supposed to be the only one who writes something that lets you know that you are over their line. Okay? Anybody else does not have that right.
Bingo.
They do not have that right to come against you. And what was good was the Supreme Court came out. They did this thing. They said, whoa. EPA, three-letter agencies, you can't just run around punishing everybody because of the regulation you came up with on your own, right? And I think this would be good. Defund you immediately if you try to enforce action against a citizen based on their speech, based on what they're saying, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Right? No, you nailed it. I think he nailed it. I don't know about banning funding. I think we need to cut a lot of these agencies anyway, for even thinking that they have the authority to create new agencies like this anyways. They're tyrants. I think it's removal from office, not just stop
Right.
funding. It's removal from their office.
Right.
That because you're violating the Constitution of the United States of America by trying to censor people.
Yep.
You're not holding to your oath at that point. Now you're acting in bad faith. You're done. Like, get out of here. And it's so crazy because people think, wow, that's crazy. No, I get fired if I don't do my job.
Right. Right.
If a person hires me and I get fired, dude. Or, I'm sorry, if a person hires me and I don't do my job, I get fired. What's wrong with me firing the people that we elect to represent us? We vote in. He's not doing the job, get him out. She's not doing the job, get her out. And that's, I think, the problem is, how do we do that? We can't do that. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can totally do that. And you know what's so funny? Government made no process. It's weird. Government made no process for this, except for elections. You know what I mean? Or having a Supreme Court or a Congress that's willing to prosecute the president for not holding their oath. But why Congress doesn't do it is because they haven't held to theirs, many of them.
Right.
So again, we have to get people in there who can hold to their oath regardless of the consequence. Something was happening here in the county council and here in this area. And one of the guys basically said, well, the reason why our county can't act is because of the lawsuits that would come from the state, from different things. I'm like, then why isn't the county council saying that?
Right.
Why aren't they coming out and saying, man, there's corruption up from the top. They're trying to sue us if we do this and try
Trying
to
to
act
crush
on
us.
this. Say it then. I'm not going to elect you for being a coward, dude. You got to stand for freedom. Liberty is something you got to fight for. Liberty's not given to you. It's taken away from you. Liberty is something you've got to stand for. It's vigilance. Jefferson said, eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. I agree with Kyle. He said, abolish the ATF and other three-letter agencies. 100%.
Absolutely.
They're not doing the job that we can do ourselves. They're not doing any better by regulation. Dude, has anyone ever seen how bad the VA is to its people that are that are trying to get health care from the VA?
And how oppressive the ATF, the EPA, the FBI, the CIA have become.
Unbelievable. Free speech is a bulwark of American liberty, a bulwark of liberty, period.
Right.
If you do not have free speech, you do not have freedom of conscience. If you do not have freedom of conscience, you're just a puppet being led by puppet strings by the dictator up top. And that's Germany. That's Mao Zedong. That's Stalin. That's Pol Pot. That's any massive dictator in history.
They will force you to come in line, or they will end you in massive quantities.
100%.
And that's where he and I we're pounding this horn, because what's going on in the UK, and we've been
100%.
covering it, it can happen here. And I get so tired of people saying, well, it'll never happen here. I mean, we got the Constitution, we got the Bill of Rights.
Right.
Yes, because they've really followed those, and they've really gone by those limitations.
Especially lately.
Right.
I mean, for God's sakes, we have someone who's running for vice president who straight up hates the Republic and its Constitution. They're not going to do for you what you're going to do for yourself. They're not going to do it. I think we've all kind of seen it now. Sorry, guys. It's the truth. I just want you to see, there are things we could say, okay, we saw some socialism in that person, this candidate. A vice presidential candidate is a full-blown Marxist. Full-blown. Wants government to do everything and is able to get the mob on his side to do it.
Right.
Because he did it in his state.
And
this is dangerous,
Didn't he
dude.
say, like, one man's socialism is another man's kindness or something like that?
Something along those lines. So when you look at, like, dude, several years ago, we had Bernie Sanders run, a full-blown socialist.
Right.
Do you guys not see the progression here? Now we have a Trump who's trying to run, who has no idea of what government's supposed to do. He doesn't. He has no idea what the Constitution is or say. I can promise you he don't. But he's the best we got. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, do we not see the progression? Ron Paul, to me, was like that last bastion. To me, it was like, wow, we got someone who can actually do this thing and actually go for it. And by the way, the no tax on tips was his idea, not Trump's. Sorry, guys, bursting your bubble here. It's nothing new. They shouldn't even
Which
anyway.
Ron Paul's the same guy who, end the Fed. So,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. I mean, we're
kinda
just
in line
we're
on
just
all that.
saying. And I'm not even a libertarian. He was probably
Right.
the best choice we had at that time to actually reform a government. So no, it is us. It's us having our voices and saying we're not doing this. And if this sounds rebellious, and if you can't handle someone calling you rebellious, if you can't handle someone calling you a nationalist, which I'm not, I'm just an American, I'm a citizen, and I love rights and liberty, okay? If you can't handle that, I can't speak to your weakness. I'm sorry, dude. But weak men will not keep law. Sorry, guys. It's time to say it. Weak men, weak people cannot be a part of the republic.
That's a really important point.
They won't uphold it.
You will not keep your republic with weak men. And weak men are the ones who give in as soon as something happens.
Yep.
Right? Oh, pressure. I'm done. That's the difference between weak and strong, right? Pressure, I'm done.
I can't even believe we're even saying that it's like, if you're too weak to stand for the conscience that God gave you, the effeminate will not inherit the kingdom of God, dude.
Right.
Read Revelation. Read 1 Corinthians 6. You want to be effeminate, soft, and weak and not stand for the convictions God gave you? The effeminate will not. I'm sorry, guys. That is scripture. I'm not trying to be condemning. The Bible says in John 3:18, you're already condemned of self. Okay? You can profess God all you want, but if you're not willing to stand for the name of Jesus Christ and the liberties that you have, and you're not willing to stand for the things that God gave you and preach the gospel to every creature, and willing for people to say to you that you can't speak against transgenders and you can't speak about government. Sorry, guys, you're weak. And guys, weak men have brought us into this position. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't hold back anymore. I don't care if people like us anymore, for our stance on President Trump or whatever. Will I have to vote for the guy? Probably. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
Right.
I'm still kind of in the toss-up era here. Do I think he's the best we got for the options we have? Yeah, of course I do. Right? But I'm still torn because my vote is before God, not before you. So I'm not going to say to you things about Trump to appease you and get you to donate to me in this ministry. I'm not doing it. Yeah. I have to stand before God with my conscience, dude. And I'm not going to sit here and kowtow to people and tell you things you need to hear so you can give to my ministry so I can go preach the gospel to everyone else. So in other words, my lie is advancing the gospel. Where does God ever say to do that? Quite the opposite. In Romans 6:7, he says, don't do that. I'm not doing it. And this ministry won't stand for it. We will tell you the truth. Now, I'm not saying Trump's a bad guy. I think we need to vote for the guy if that's the only option we got, which is true. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you this guy is king turd of the crap pile and he's the only, no, man. And I don't care if you like it or not. I'm not doing it to be rebel. I'm not doing that. We have a job to do before God, dude. And truth is truth. Truth is truth. You posted a video about is this Christianity? No response. But boy,
right.
Say he's a Christian. We'll make memes about Jesus standing behind him. Well, what about the average Joe? What about the guy who's actually losing his farm and things like that? What, is Jesus not on his side? Unbelievable. We and again, I'm ranting now, but
no, that's it. To close that out. Yeah, we've got to really pay attention to what we're taking in and what points we're trying to make, right? So anyways.
No, truth, bro.
Yeah.
It's truth. Hold any one of these guys to the standard of Christ and the standard of the Constitution, right? That's what we do. We're Christians. I'm not saying, look, we're not electing a pastor here, okay? I'm not going by his Christianity. I'm merely going by the Constitution.
Right.
I'm not even thinking he's a spiritual leader here. I'm talking about just Constitution with Trump. That's all.
Yep.
Is he advancing the cause of liberty? All right, we'll see. We'll see.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
just to be clear, I'm not talking about his Christianity.
No, you're good.
Not about that.
Yeah, no. Crickets when we start talking about that.
Oh boy.
Bitter? No. Right before we get going, we do have to let you guys know about, look, we've got a new sponsor called Sherwood Kids. This site, it's lifetime access, lifetime membership. And maybe you're sick of your kids paying attention to high stimulus videos and all of that. And you're going, I want to give my kids something quality, something low stimulus, something that they'll enjoy. And I tell you, this is right in line for my own kid. He will listen to stuff all day, right? Stories all day. So what this is, they have thousands of wholesome audiobooks, ebooks, read-along videos, and the kind of stories you want shaping your kids. And so instead of, all right, plop my kid down in front of YouTube and just have YouTube go on, go to Sherwood Kids. You get a lifetime membership. If you don't want your kids just mindlessly watching shows, being discontent without a screen, you know what I'm talking about. That like frustration, anxiety, they're grumpy after they've watched 2 episodes of a show. You don't need that anymore. Instead, go to SherwoodKids.com, get a lifetime membership, and all of a sudden your kid is intaking something that is quality and wholesome for them, that helps them learn and grow. And if you go, you put in SELF into the discount code, remember, discount code SELF, you get half off your lifetime membership. To over 4,000 titles, and they're adding new titles all the time. Half off for a lifetime. All you gotta do is write SELF. So go to SherwoodKids.com, put in SELF in the discount code, and help your kids grow up with maturity, with understanding, with depth, with the valuable classics, as well as wholesome, good, solid titles. I mean, I'm reading Little House on the Prairie to my son, and I'm telling you, it has an effect on him. These wholesome, good stories have an effect on people. So go to SherwoodKids.com, put SELF into the discount code, especially all you homeschoolers.
You read to your
lifetime.
kids?
I do.
I never did that with you guys. I just taught you how to read. Well, Mom did. We read the Bible together.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for paying attention. We know we went a little bit long today, but I hope you learned something about free
Wait.
speech. What?
Wait.
What you got?
Text to give.
Ooh. Do it. Go for
So
it.
we got a text to give option. You got to text the word give to 772-242-0299. That is 772-242-0299. Text the word give.
Dang.
Man, that was fast. That was good. All right. We will see y'all on Monday. We love you guys.